Hello everyone, this is astraeakeva. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to paint gold, just a gold sphere. And so I will put the full tutorial, well, I'll put the PSD files, and I will make a compilation of some of the other material studies I do on my Patreon, but this is for YouTube. So I'm going to draw a gold sphere, and I'll try to make it as simple as I possibly can. In this tutorial, I'm not only going to talk about creating the gold sphere, but I'm also going to talk about something that I believe everybody should know, especially if you are going to paint digitally, things that you need to study to draw digitally well, basically. So I'm gonna do this. Let's see, what color should I pick for this? I'm just going to make it white, and let's have these two bars, right? Let's pixel lock this layer, pixel lock the layer for the bars. Yeah. And so I'm going to talk about the importance of transitioning through gradients. So basically what I mean is, if you want to be good at drawing, especially semi-realistic portraits, and also something that doesn't have textures, you kind of have to do this little practice. If you are a beginner, my advice to you is start off with a soft round brush. It can be one of the general brushes, or you can grab some of my brushes, which I will put up on tier 1 of my Patreon account. And you can start off with a soft brush, and basically what I mean by gradients is, let's pick black, right? And we're going to see a transition from light to dark, or dark to light, basically. And the transition that you're trying to look for has to be smooth, right? And if you use a soft round brush, it's kind of easy to see this transition from light to dark. The transition doesn't take that long for you to practice. But if you are if you want to learn how to transition pretty well, especially if you're going to draw skin and you want to show a subtle change from maybe shadows to highlights on the face, or on clothing and all of that, I'm gonna ask you guys to practice with a textured brush, or a brush that's not soft round brush, right? So you can just get familiar with how the transitions happen. The first thing that you can do is choose a soft round brush when you're new, and then after choosing the soft round brush, I would advise you to make the opacity of your brush roughly around 40 to 50%, and just aim just to see the smooth transition from light to dark, just to see a very smooth transition like this. Yeah, let's do this way. You can even make the opacity even bright, smaller, like 30%. But a lot of new artists, and this is something I was struggling with for a long time, if you take my square brush, right, and I'm gonna try this transition with a square brush, you kind of have to practice a lot. My opacity is at 30%, so I'm gonna keep picking the colors. 30% opacity. Seeing the transition from light to dark using a more textured brush will just help you learn how to properly do it. And it takes practice. So why am I talking about this when I'm talking about creating a gold sphere? it's the idea of creating something that is going to have highlights and also it's going to have shadows. Because when you draw something that's metallic, you're going to have to show various sources of value, of various sources of lighting. And you have to learn value in lighting, stuff such as, reflective light. Especially if you're going to do material studies, you have to think about what's going to be next to it. So right now, I still haven't shown you guys what my second material is going to be over here. So we're only going to focus on this one, right? But if this was blue, the second material was blue, you have to think about how that blue will reflect on the gold. So these material studies, and I'm encouraging people to do material studies, is going to help you with various concepts that will make your art seem more alive and more appealing. And especially if you are going to draw like portraits and portrait to story, which is something I'm doing right now on my Patreon tier 2. So let's get into it. Let's just do a simple tutorial on how to draw a gold sphere. The first thing is you're going to pick a color that's sort of based around, not too yellow, it's sort of like orangey yellowy color as a base color. I already colored it in, and my PSD file will be up on my Patreon. And the second thing that I tend to do is just work in a big shape. And since I want my light to hit, let's see, where do I want my light to hit? I want my light to come from above, like here, to hit this area. So my aim would be to, let's go back. Yeah, my aim would be to have shadows down at the opposite direction, right? Yeah. So let's add a darker color. I took a darker color that's in the same hue, but I decreased saturation, decreased brightness, and got that. My opacity is still at 30%. And I'm going to take a color that's in between my base and also my dark, and just try to give it that subtle transition as I did here, right at the bottom in my bars. And if you know it's going to wrap around, because the light is hitting in this particular spot, it's not going to be light all over. Give it a 3D effect. Pick a color in the middle, make the brush smaller, and you're gonna just keep going back and forth until it seems a bit smooth. And if you want to look at references, you can. I mean, references are a great way to study and enhance your visual library. And you can also do this without even gold. It can be monochrome. It's a monochrome drawing. Next, I picked a color that's not yellow. It's a bit more reddish to showcase my highlighted spot. This is the most highlighted spot. And just like I did with the dark spots, let me take away this little. I'm gonna try and get a middle color and just blend it in. And if you don't feel confident about blending, or you just don't have time to practice blending, you can use the smudge tool or use a soft round brush like I showed you earlier. Use a soft round brush. So I'm going to use a smudge tool just to soften it up, because I don't have time. Smudge tool to smudge it in. Okay. Now for the third would be, since this is I talked about reflective light. The background is blue, So I'm gonna pick a little color that has a base of blue, and that's why I chose this dark color. Go to brush and reflect the light at the bottom. This is a part of global illumination, and global illumination, maybe I should make my background black so you guys can see. I'm gonna make my background black so you guys can see. A little bit dark. Global illumination, so colors around, I'm trying to explain it pretty well, but colors don't just have, you know, the color of the light or color of the sun and all of that. Colors reflect on each other. So if you are wearing a pink shirt, that pink shirt might have some sort of reflection on your skin. So that's kind of global illumination, and you will notice in some of my drawings, my characters have little blue highlights on their skin, or orange, green if they're outside in the garden. I would put little green highlights on their face. It's global illumination. So it's very important to know all of these. You can research on it. So I'm just going to give this reflective light at the bottom and just try to blend in the colors a little bit more. My opacity has been at 30% most of the time, so I'm just going to keep it at 30%. So my opacity is still at 30%, but I will just continue to go back and forth, pick a color in the middle, and so that I can have a good smooth transition. And I keep doing this until I sort of get it or understand it. It makes sense. Let's see. Did I draw on the wrong layer? I think every digital artist has this problem, drawing on the wrong layer. Okay, right layer it is. Pick a color in the middle and just keep drawing it. I am using a reference, this little gold bar thing, so I can understand it a little bit more. What I've noticed is that on my reference there is light kind of reflecting in the back here, so I'm gonna put some light here, but I will edit it. Let's make it a bit thinner. I want to see a smooth transition between these two colors, just a bit too bold. I'm going to use a smudge tool just to smudge it in. I've seen some people just don't like the smudge tool, but I do. The smudge tool's strength is at 20%, so I kept the strength at 20%. Okay. I feel as though this little lighting should be a bit higher and the dark should move up a little bit. So let's do that. So yes, this is how I tend to draw. Even my thought process when I'm painting is exploring. I can change things. I don't have this, my artwork is final thought that much most of the time. I can still change things up. Smudge it in. Okay. Next up, I want to make the changes in opacity 30%. I want to have a deep or more intense contrast between the dark and the light, and I want the blues to be a little bit more at bottom, the reflective light. So I'm going to add that. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of a darker tones between. This would be the darkest area of the golden sphere because of the reflective light. I think it needs more contrast. I think we should do this on a new layer. You don't have to keep pressing undo. You can go to history and then undo the brush strokes that way, but I'm too used to using my pen to press the undo button. Okay, let's add a little bit of dark contrast here to give it a more of a 3D effect. And I'm gonna take my time. I think I'll fast forward some areas where I am drawing really fast. Okay, transition here to be a bit darker. Now I'm beginning to see a little bit of a 3D effect, but my blues are kind of getting out of whack. So let me add a little bit more blues at the bottom, in between color, between the dark and the blue. What I find appealing about drawing specific things that have a specific color, so for example, if you hear gold, I think your expectations would be that it needs to be all yellow, but if you add a color that's complementary, so yellow and blue are complementary colors, it looks a bit more appealing. So that's kind of why I added blue. You can add green, but yeah, that's why I kind of added blue to my reflective color. I'm just going to use the smudge tool because this is a quick tutorial. I don't want to record for a long time. Okay, I want my highlights to be a bit more sharper, so I'm gonna add white to my highlights and just keep transitioning between them and then smudge them. Does it look okay? Maybe adding a little bit more reflection of the whites. Make it go this way around the edges, and I'm gonna smudge it. Quite honestly, I like the smudge tool. I've seen people say they don't like it, but I do. Yeah, so go to the previous layer and smudge it a little bit more. So I want to try something, the transition over here between the light and dark, because it's metal, I would like it to be more sharp. So let's just edit this part a little bit more, and then I'll smudge it in. And I made a short key for my smudge tool as S on Photoshop. Yeah, so on Medibang I use the blending brush that you can get from Medibang itself. So because this is a metal object, I think that I can add a little bit more, like a sharp reflection. Maybe you will buy something black and something like this, a sharp reflection. So I'm gonna create this sharp, dark, how should I say it, shadow that can be cast by maybe your surroundings or something. So let's just draw that dark shadow, that it will blend into where it's the lightest. I want to have a smooth transition between these, so just keep color picking and seeing the smooth transition, color pick. And yeah, these areas I would like them to be a bit darker. And where it's reflecting as well. Okay. What does it look like? It's at a mountain or something. Mountain. And I'm just gonna smudge it in. Okay. As for where the light, where it's, I'm gonna draw on another layer. Like I said, global illumination is very important. So where things tend to meet, there's going to be some sort of deep contrast. So I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight and I'll smudge it in. Also put a little bit of dark here. Uniformity is good. And then a little bit of dark here. And we will blend all of these in. I'm going to take the smudge tool and make the opacity 50. Make this brush, the smudge tool size smaller. So it just blends in quite well. Yeah. Blend it in pretty good. Okay. I want a little bit of a blue tint. I'll color pick my blue tint also around this area. Just for uniformity. And a little bit more dark here. Okay. Because it's a sphere, maybe make it round in as well. Right, smudge it in. Oh, opacity is still at 15%, so 1.5. Okay. Lastly, I will create a new layer and I will put a little shadow. It can be a bit dark, so black might work. And I will make the layer behind the sphere. So I'm going to put the layer underneath the sphere, so it's behind it. Make it a bit rounder. Let's see if there's anything else I want to change. I want to make it more highlights, like reflective lights, like around here, and connection between the lights over here. Yeah, something like this. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but adding a little bit of the blue where it's yellow and yellow where it's blue just gives it this sort of uniformity. I'm gonna add a little bit of gray and then smudge it in. Maybe add a little bit more here. And you can do this for any color, so it doesn't have to be gold. It can be like a green or pink or any other color. And so that is all for today's tutorial. And if you want the PSD file, you can find it up on my Patreon. I will continue to upload more tutorials and how to do material studies on my Patreon, so feel free to check it out. And yeah, I'll also put up my brushes as well. So this video will be up on YouTube, but I will upload all the materials for this particular video, my paint, my brushes. I'll upload it on my Patreon as well. I'll upload my line art brush set as well as my most used brushes as well. So make sure to check it out if you're interested. And you can ask me any questions there. You can even give me suggestions for what you want me to draw. And tier 2, on tier 2 I'm doing a lot more character analysis and character design, or fan art character analysis. So if you're going to create fan art, how do you analyze characters? So you can check it out there too. And that is all for today's video, how to paint a golden sphere. And so thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.